The art of tone, mastering communication elements for successful sales. So there are many different parts to tone, and if you don't think it's important, just ask Jerry Seinfeld. When I got married, I didn't know I would be discussing the tone in my voice with my wife. I was not aware that I spoke in so many different tones. I thought it was a marriage. Apparently, it's a musical. So tone is important in inside and outside of work. We're going to be covering uh, a handful of elements of tone: volume, emphasis, pauses, speed, nonverbal communication, and mirroring. There are other elements, but these are the most important. So let's just dive right into it. So volume. The volume we speak can convey three main things: confidence, assertiveness, or enthusiasm. When someone says quietly, it can bring maybe calm or intimacy. Um, and we kind of go over the three tones: confident tone, assertive tone, enthusiastic tone. And it's kind of just a quick aside. It can be tough if you're either quiet. If you're quiet, you speak softly, and you're soft spoken, and you kind of draw people in. Or if you're louder like me, and you're enthusiastic and you're excited about what's going on, that can also be difficult for different reasons. Although it's nice to have just a even keel type tone when you're meeting people in business. So confident tone, actually we'll start with an enthusiastic tone, and then we'll go to the assertive tone, then we'll do the confident tone. So enthusiastic is, hey, great to meet you. Oh, Bob, it's great to meet you. Or Sarah, it's really nice to meet you. Or if you're in a meeting and you're excited and your volume's higher, some people, and you speed up, and you kind of can speed. It can also correlate with speed. You can kind of feel excited and jubilant and enthusiastic, and this is this can be conveyed as you want to get something from somebody. And it's unfortunate because if you're naturally friendly, it can come off as you're looking to get, kind of get something from somebody. So in business, it's not great to have the enthusiastic tone right off the bat, especially. And it can be perceived as, if you're too nice, just like in dating, if you're too nice, unfortunately, the opposite sex may walk all over you because they think they can. And the same is true in business. So next is the assertive tone. It's like a lower tone, and you lower your voice. And so kind of can think of people in authority that would do this. Perhaps if you're in grade school, high school, or if you're in grade school or high school or college or whatever, a principal, a dean of students, a judge, hopefully not a police officer. But think of those types of tones where they kind of say, they kind of roll their um, you know lower their tone and talk about it at the end and say, do you know how fast? If a police officer pulls you over and you stop your car, they have the sirens on, they get out of their car, they shut their door, they walk over, you roll down your window, or they knock on your window, license, registration, and they ask a question: do you know how fast you're going? Or something maybe even lower, like, do you know how fast you were going? It's kind of even hard for me to do. But anyway, you get the idea. Confident tone is if enthusiastic's up here and the assertive is down here. Then the confident tone would be a 5 out of 10. So if you're just meeting people, uh, if you're saying, "Hey, it's nice to meet you," an enthusiastic tone would be, "Hey, it's great to meet you," whereas an assertive tone would be, "Yeah, it's nice to meet you." Whereas a confident tone would be, It's nice to meet you. It's good to meet you. Something just a 5 out of 10. No real sway one way or the other. Super important when you're first meeting people and when you're in sales presentations. So just think neutral volume. So next, emphasis. How we emphasize certain words or phrases can help convey importance or draw attention to specific points. It highlights the meaning and helps to get the intended meaning across. So we're just going to go through a little exercise. Maybe you guys have seen something like this. I didn't say she hit her cat. So you can, if you emphasize different words in this, it'll convey different meanings. So I didn't say she hit her cat, meaning maybe somebody else did. I didn't say she hit her cat. So maybe you said something different. I didn't say she hit her cat. So maybe you kind of implied it. I didn't say she hit her cat. So maybe somebody else did. I didn't say she hit her cat. So maybe she did something else. Maybe she swung at it and missed, or did another action besides hitting. I didn't say she hit her cat. So maybe it was somebody else's cat. I didn't say she hit her cat. Maybe she hit her dog, which is equally as crazy. But you can kind of see just through this exercise. This is a good exercise to do. Just through different emphasis on different words, you can change the whole meaning of a sentence or of the point you're trying to convey to your audience and prospects. Pauses. Pauses in speech can increase emphasis, create tension, or allow the listener to process information. Well-placed pauses also help control the conversation's pace and give time for reflection. So, two very important parts of pauses. There are many others, which we'll get into in another video. However, two for today are super important. One is after you ask the prospect a tough question, and the second is when asking a probing question, you can actually chop up your sentence. So, an example of each. So, after you ask a prospect a tough question, maybe let's just say you're speaking about, let's just say you're speaking about what would be important to them in terms, or what has been, what would be important to them in terms of your service, just kind of making this up. And what you want to do is you just want to shut up and just be quiet. Let the silence fill the room and let them get back to you with, if you're asking, hey, what are some important qualities of XYZ service, or in a vendor for XYZ service, or for your program, or for your company, or your department, or your team? What are some qualities of said service to your team? Notice how I'm quiet. Most salespeople like to talk because it's a little awkward. So just be quiet and then take notes and listen. Listening, obviously, being the most important thing you can do in a sales process. Number two, when asking probing questions, one can kind of pause in between the sentence to break it up to make the communication more digestible and to lower the prospect's guard. So if you're asking maybe a probing question in terms of, let's just say you're able to get leads for a company, and you say, hey, and you figured out one of their challenges is leads coming in, they get maybe 3 a month, but they really want to get 30. And you say, and then you can ask a really tough question, would be something like, how long have you been dealing with this? And so if you say it again, if you just kind of say it, how long have you been dealing with this? It's like, whoa, like easy. But if you say it broken up just a little bit, you can kind of lower their guard, like, hey, and how long have you been dealing with this? So it kind of lowers the guard. So that's an example of strategically using a pause after just a general question or asking a really tough question in between. So speed, the speed at which we speak affects how easily the listener understands and absorbs our message. Speaking too quickly, which I can do pretty easily, I need to slow down, be more like the turtle, can lead to confusion, while speaking too slowly can bore or frustrate the listener. So talking too fast can be difficult for the listener to follow along and process the information being spoken. It can start to frustrate people. The audience perceives you as lacking confidence in what you're saying, which can undermine your credibility. So if you speak in a rushed fashion, people are going to think, "Oh man, this guy just wants to get this over with." They're not confident in what they're saying, or they don't believe in what they're saying. Even worse. So if they're talking, especially if you're talking about your company's service or your product or about your team, this could really undermine your whole presentation and your credibility with your audience. Whereas, so talking too quickly, getting the information done, it can undermine and frustrate what you're trying to do. Whereas talking too slowly will bore or frustrate the listener. Your audience will lose interest or become impatient, waiting. All right, but you get it. You get the point. Waiting for you to convey your point. So if you can just, if you're, I think some people are naturally just talk too fast, sometimes like myself, or they talk too slowly, almost like a psychiatrist. If you can find where you lean towards, we all lean towards one of these sides. If you can be mindful of it, then you can kind of, if you practice it, you can remind yourself to go towards either the cheetah or go a little bit more towards the turtle. And the good news is the variations of these speeds while we're speaking can really help to keep people's attention as part of a tool to engage people while we're speaking. So you want to maybe speed up a sentence real fast and then maybe really slow it down to make an emphasis on something that could be germane or super important to conversation. Nonverbal communication may be the most important. Body language, facial expressions, gestures, and general demeanor also contribute to tone of voice, believe it or not. These nonverbal cues often play an essential role in conveying sincerity, trustworthiness, and credibility. So someone could have an acceptable volume, emphasis, speed, but then you throw their hands up in the air, roll their eyes, or snicker, and this will all contribute to someone's tone or perceived tone. And or they can be perceived as rude to either their coworkers or clients or potential clients. So it's super important to be mindful of how you're reacting with your body language while something's going on, whether you agree with what's being said or not. It's important to be mindful of your overall actions, because especially if you're in person with someone, that's going to get conveyed the majority of the time over exactly what you're saying. And last, mirroring. This is mirroring subtly adopts a conversation partner's tone of voice and body language. It helps to build rapport with the other person by making them feel understood and connected. So Tony Robbins with NLP, neuro linguistic programming, made this big years ago, and it's basically a technique that's gained popularity, and it enables you to create a sense of connection and understanding. So, for example, just a simple example is if you're in a meeting and someone crosses their legs, you can cross their legs too. Someone puts their hand like this, maybe you can put your hand like this too. It can go into verbal too. If they're speaking kind of slowly, maybe you speak slowly. And Tony Robbins goes as far as to say their breath. So if you can pick up on how fast they're breathing or slowly they're breathing, and you can mimic that, so that's certainly something you can work on as well. So that's it. So hopefully this was helpful with all going to tone. and mastering communication, elements for success.